Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Insurance Journal's Academy of Insurance's after show. This isn't so much of an after show; is it a after? I'm not sure what to call it, but it's an author conversation. And after shows are for our instructors, and the gentleman who we are having as a guest today is a longtime instructor for the Academy of Insurance. But I'll introduce our distinguished panel. We also have with us the director of the Academy of Insurance, Mr. Patrick Great. And today's guest is a speaker, a work comp insurance expert, a gentleman who brings over 25 years of agency ownership and management, sales training, and workers' compensation expertise to his topics. We are having him on today for a couple of reasons. One, we haven't had him on for a while teaching a class. We want to ask him about that. But also, Frank wrote a new book, The Silent Danger, Understanding Fiduciary Risks in Self-Funded Health Plans. And our very special guest for our author conversation is none other than Mr. Frank Pennachio. Frank, I'm so excited I get to say this to you. Welcome to the after show. It's great to have you here.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you folks and your listeners. Thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure. So the book is described as a groundbreaking guide for employers, CFOs, HR executives, plan fiduciaries, and consultants running or advising self-funded health plans. So I understand it's the book is from I don't know what kind of point of view it's from. It's from the corporate point of view. You want to help out business owners and corporate personalities with their health plans so they don't get caught by surprise. Frank, you have taught a wide array of work compensation classes for the Academy. Why now for this book? And was this a subject you always wanted to give a class on, but never really had in depth?
That's a great question. I'm always on the lookout for significant opportunities in the marketplace for producers, agents, brokers. I did write the book for the CFO, for the HR professional, but agents and brokers obviously need to read this as well. And here's, I think what this is about is the most significant opportunity in the entire insurance landscape right now. And here's the reasons why. One, employee benefits agents have very difficult challenges with respect to, and they have for years, with the increasing healthcare costs. And they're going every year to their clients with increases, and they're getting yelled at, and they're getting, all kinds of heat. Is there anything you can do? As a result of that, they have been advised in manners in which I disagree with to sell self-insurance to employers of all sizes. 40% of employers under 100 employees are now self-insuring their group health. I'm not real good at math, but that's almost half. And the way they're positioning it, George and Patrick, is they're saying they've been instructed to, they've been trained, they've been advised to go out to the marketplace to employers of all sizes and say the following: self-insure your group health. There's no greater risk than fully insured, which is unequivocally incorrect. And it's not just me saying that. Even the Self-Insurance Institute of America, which is the professional association that promotes self-insurance, says it's more complex, it carries far more risks. So what I'm seeing is a significant number of employers are unknowingly assuming significant risks. They haven't even been given the opportunity to make an intelligent and intentional decision. And what's very different about employee benefits and group health is that there's this federal law that's 51 years old now called ERISA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, that in the law it says if you don't manage your group benefits, your group health benefits, or your employee benefits in general properly and prudently, the corporate veil can be pierced and your personal assets are exposed. So people are exposing their personal assets in significant ways unknowingly. And I'm extraordinarily disappointed that this is occurring. I felt rather than shouting at the rain, I would write a book and put it out there and see if if it will begin to resonate. But I'm going up against a huge wave of insurance companies, managing general agencies, other consultants that do training of agents, and agents that are telling this story. There's no greater risk, which is, again, I could talk for hours about the increased risks. We won't do that today. So that's what kind of sparked me. And I find it fascinating, and I find it to be an opportunity both for property and casualty agents, because they need to step in the breach here with fiduciary liability insurance, because the risks arise out of the group health plans, but they can't be adequately addressed by the benefits agents. Some of the mitigation may be, certainly more transparency of the risks could be, but they can't transfer any of the risks. That has to come from the P&C side. So there's an enormous gulf between the P&C and the benefits agents, and it's even a big opportunity for those who want to stand in the breach.
So, first of all, Frank, I wanted to ask you if we have permission to put, instead of shouting at the rain, I wrote a book on a T-shirt. Would that be, the Academy has a gift shot now. Would that be, do we have we can put Frank Pennachio, but can we use your quote on a T-shirt?
Attribution would be nice, but that's fine. Yeah,
And kind of a Calvin and Hobbes style, you looking at the rain,
right.
back to the camera. We can figure it out.
It was cathartic. I will share that. It certainly was cathartic to get that stuff down.
So that sort of answered my next question, which was cart or horse, chicken or egg. So I know you were super busy for a long time with Oceanus Partners, Resource
right.
Pro, a very, very busy instructor and speaker, and you are now retired from a lot of that.
Right.
So had you wanted to write a book for a long time and this topic came along, or were you not thinking about writing a book, and then during a rainstorm you're like, self-funded health plans, there's what made you, if we could dive a little deeper into what actually made you write the book? Was it something brewing for a while?
Well, there are a number
of
factors. Yeah, there's a number of factors. Technically, I retired April 1st of 2024. In the first 9 to 12 months, that was fabulous. Got a little summer cottage in Maine, hiking, chopping wood, exploring coastal, Hallmark type towns. Absolutely fabulous. And, there's an old joke. I didn't know my father was a drunk till one night he came home sober. I didn't know how exhausted I was, and how just drained I was until I got relaxed. And it took about a year, because 42 weeks on the road, year after year. It was the right business model, but it became a young man's business model. So I got relaxed. And as a result of that, it's like, okay. And I started to get a couple of phone calls from former clients, just reaching out with questions, and I was happy to take them. And when I got off the calls, I felt rejuvenated. I felt excited. I felt refreshed. And this topic has been bugging me. It wasn't that the direct answer to your question was I wasn't been wanting to write a book for 10 years. It was like, this topic has just been, it's been gnawing on me. And another factor I will say that came into play, when we came back from Maine last summer in early October of 24, my community was hit with 2 hurricanes 10 days apart before we arrived. So it was a sad place. There was people's stuff on the curb for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks, and just a sad place. So it was another way to channel some of that sadness into something productive. So a topic that's just been bugging me, and I feel there's a need to have an alternative view out there, dealing with my community's sadness. Although we didn't get hit, then you have survivor's guilt on top of it. That played a role. But my 2 watering holes were both shut down. One of them never reopened. One just reopened a month ago. Just things were really shook up. So this was a good way to channel that and to attempt to put an alternative view out there, an alternative position. It's a very lonely voice right now. I'll give you another quick story real quick. I was listening to a podcast this week with a CEO. I'll leave his name out of it and his company name out of it. A CEO of a very large stop loss insurance carrier who sells stop loss to self-funded health plans. And he made the comment that the stop loss is the final backstop for catastrophic risks under self-funded health plans. No, it's not. It's the employer. It's the plan sponsor who's the final backstop, because if a claim is covered by the plan and the reinsurance, or also known as stop loss, doesn't pay, guess who the final stop gap is? It's the employer slash sponsor, plan sponsor. Oh, and you don't have the money in the company? Okay, let's start liquidating personal assets. So this just, I hope that addressed your question, George. There's a lot of emotions and a lot of thoughts and a lot of contemplation that really gets all wrapped up in that question.
It did address my question, and that's kind of what I was going for. Like, what really? Because I know when someone gets an idea for a book, it stems from some sort of impetus to communicate something, and so no, it answered my question and then some. And Frank, honestly, I've missed the recipe of yours, that is your passion for the topic, plus your advocacy for this, you know, the work comp space. So and everything else, you're looking out for them, you're looking out for us. So Frank, I really appreciate it. It's been great. I didn't know how much I needed a dose of Frank until today. So
Well,
thank you.
that's so kind of you, George. And quite directly, I think the topic we're on today is far more dramatic and significant. It's when personal assets are exposed, uh, and people don't know it. I mean, and you're a 20-person plumber that's been told self-insure your group health. There's no greater risk than fully insured, and you go with that. And there's been no steps to help you understand the risks, to mitigate them, to transfer them, and even to have the opportunity to maybe say, you know what, for a potential 6 to 10% of savings on my group health, I don't think I'm going to put my entire net worth on the line. At least give the opportunity to make that comment. And then the book has 13 appendices. I like checklists, and I've got 13 checklists in the book, that if they want to self-fund, well, let's go through the 13 checklists first, and probably need an ERISA attorney to boot.
Patrick, Patrick, great. What do you think of Frank's book and the topic in general, and just how much we've missed Frank in particular? I can see it in your face.
So there's a lot that I'm just gonna kind of give a lot here. First off, we had Frank. We were so glad that you were able to spend some time decompress. And before you retired, you and I had the conversation that said, and you told me, hey, look, I'm backing away. We're getting a cabin in Maine. You didn't tell me epic facial hair was going to be a part of the process, but look at you. And and I'm so glad that for that. Another piece of this was even before you took the step back, we were having some of these conversations about fiduciary liability and the increased standard of care, if you will, for a fiduciary in some respects. And so this has been kind of stuck in your craw for a while now.
Right.
And again, to your point, you said you mentioned having a alternative viewpoint. You and I, we've had this discussion before, that disagreement is a place where we learn things. And,
Right.
People stuck in their echo chamber continue to think exactly the way they thought yesterday. But if you expose yourself to an alternative viewpoint, a disagreeing viewpoint, or maybe an aggravating viewpoint, at the very least, your mind stretches and you figure out more. At least you figure out why you look at it the way you do. If you even if somebody doesn't agree with you, they could still say, okay, Frank has caused me to have to say, I believe this for A, B, and C reasons.
Yeah. And Patrick, I don't know who said it. It was either Upton Sinclair or Sinclair Lewis. I get those two confused. But somebody said, if your paycheck depends upon you not knowing something, you're not going to know it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the people out there spreading misinformation are purposefully misrepresenting or lying. I even looked up the definition of lying to make sure that I could feel comfortable saying they're not lying. They've just been misinformed or ill-informed or not informed. There's a lot of people out there that have a big incentive in misinforming agents and brokers about these risks by saying they're not there, because otherwise They don't sell their products. I mean, I don't have a product to
Right.
sell. I'm very fortunate. Plus, quite directly, dipping my toes back in the water after I don't even know if I can call myself semi-retired. What's a quarter of that? But you know, the wolf is away from the door. I can speak freely. I don't need to attract people that I find are doing things that are adverse to their clients. And I don't want to invite them into my ecosystem unless they want to learn something different.
Sure.
So I find it incredibly challenging and disconcerting that people are purposefully being misinformed. And ultimately, especially under ERISA, the final fiduciary responsibility falls with the employers, not the carriers, not the third-party administrators, not even the agents and brokers. The fiduciary is the employer or multiple people inside the employer's office that are touching these health plans. And most of them don't know what they've got, what tiger they've got by the tail, and have had no opportunity to make rational decisions about it. And even if they choose to stay self-funded, at the very least, mitigate those risks and transfer those risks.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's fascinating to me that you had mentioned that the self-funded piece is considered lower risk than fully insured. I mean, if you were speaking to a small to medium employer, would you make that recommendation about their workers' comp? Most would not. They'd say, no, a fully insured workers' comp program is the way to go. It mitigates all of your risks. Would you tell them to self-insure their business auto? No, you'd tell them buy an insurance policy. It mitigates all your risk. And it seems to me like at least from what I read of your book and from the conversations I'm seeing, that the push towards this self-funding piece it seems to go against the entire grain of how we understand risk management, insurance, and all of these pieces of that whole puzzle.
And Patrick, I think there's a reason for that. And look, I work with employee benefits agents. I love them. They get up every morning intending to do a great job. They have best interest in their hearts. Okay, so, and they're my clients and they're my friends. But here's the challenge. The challenge is they have ceased to sell health insurance. Self-insurance is not health insurance. And a stop-loss policy it resembles a casualty product. It resembles a reinsurance policy. And when they're being told, because you have this stop-loss policy, which is intended to pay above specific and aggregate deductibles, they feel like, well, that's just the same as fully insured. Well, if the stop-loss policy had one sentence in the policy that said, whatever claims the plan sponsors are responsible to pay, we will reimburse them subject to deductibles, I'd be fine with that. It doesn't say that. They're multiple pages long. There's exclusions, there's limitations, there's conditions like any other insurance policy. And health insurance agents have not been adequately trained. Most, I'm trying to get never and all out of my vocabulary. Most have not been adequately trained on what a real casualty product looks like. Quite directly, they can get licensed. I actually bought the manual on what it would take to get licensed as a health agent in my home state of Florida. It's that thick. It had one paragraph on self-funding. One paragraph. And it was just like an aside. There's another option out there. So we're dealing with lots of complexity. As you mentioned, with work comp and with auto and self-insurance and so on and so forth, it doesn't even have the complexity that this has because you have to coordinate multiple contracts, the plan itself, which is the promises to the employees, the third-party administration contract, the stop-loss contract, possibly a network contract, maybe a pharmacy benefit management. These all things need to be aligned. And quite directly, some MGAs, managing general agencies, are selling the program and they're only selling the stop-loss, having never seen the rest of that. And who is reading all 3 to 5 contracts to see, is the promise in the plan backed up by the promise of reimbursement in the stop loss? And I frequently find 6 to 8 to 10 places that they're not, which means the employer is on the hook to pay the reinsurer, known as the stop loss carrier, will not reimburse.
Mm-hmm.
And that frightens me. That really frightens me, because they got to pay the claim. Oh, you don't have the money? Let's go after your house.
Better
Your
find
kids'
some money.
education fund.
Yeah.
We're going to find personal assets. I mean, that's just, it's so disconcerting to see this going on. And it's a growing problem. At the same time, where we're seeing greater litigation. We're seeing litigation around these issues. And some people say, well, right now the Department of Labor is quiet and not going to be much enforcement. Well, denied stop loss claims, ERISA violations, I still feel like you need to avoid them. The DOL will wake up one day. They'll open the doors and turn the lights back on over there. But denied stop loss claims can bankrupt somebody corporately and personally. And who's minding the store on lining that up? I'm just not seeing it. And self-insurance is very different than health insurance. Whether somebody wants to self-fund or not, that's their decision. I just would like to see greater transparency and awareness so they can make a good decision around that. And I really don't think small employers should be doing it at all.
Right.
Under 100 employees, 40%. Even the NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, are very concerned about that.
So tell us, Frank, where we can find your book.
Yes. There is a website, thesilentdanger.com. And that'll give you a link to Amazon, or you can just, Google it at Amazon, The Silent Danger, or my name, Frank Pennachio, and it'll pop up. And, it's a nerdy book. I mean, you probably noticed that, Patrick. It's a very niche oriented. It's for folks that are either considering self-funding or already self-funding. And it's directed toward the CFOs and the HR people.
Yeah. And I think I'd mentioned to you the other day, I've gotten about halfway through it. So I'm still working my way through. And I mean, it's heady. It's full. And you mentioned a full third of this is appendix. I mean,
right.
And that is fantastic. So that makes it, not only does it make it informative and deep and credible, but it also provides actionable pieces for people to go through and say, okay, if these really are the risks, let me see if I can figure out how to identify and mitigate and manage these risks.
And it allows for self-assessment, and then whether or not you want to take it on. I mean, if you're not willing to go through the assessment process, that should be exhaustive. When you're putting everything on the line, it should be exhaustive. And then with eyes wide open, I just want people to make better informed decisions. That's the goal. I'm not anti self-funding. I am for small employers, quite directly. Let me reframe that. I'm anti self-funding for small employers. Personally, I don't believe, and I've asked actuaries, where should the line be? And they typically say 300 lives. There's a gentleman on a different podcast that is responsible for all the portfolio companies of a private equity firm, one of the largest private equity firms in the country. He won't even look at it until it's 500 employees. So people that are not selling products are not promoting this for smaller employers. If you're selling a product or a service or a conference or a seminar or a convention, and that's different. But if you're responsible for portfolio companies at private equity, or you're responsible for being an actuary, if there's no actuarial credibility about the risk, why would you assume it?
Right.
Frank, earlier you had a quote, and you weren't sure which Sinclair to attribute it to, Upton Sinclair or Sinclair Lewis. That's actually a quote from Sir Clive Sinclair, the inventor of the pocket calculator. So he's actually the Sinclair who gave that quote. Just in case you're wondering.
I like to give attribution, George. I like to give attribution wherever I can. But certainly there are people out there that don't want to know. They just don't want, and that's disconcerting.
Right. I thought it might have been Madge Sinclair, the award-winning Jamaican actress, but apparently it was just Sir Clive Sinclair. So now we know. Frank, I was wondering when we might have you back for another class. fiduciary liability updates for 2026.
I would welcome the opportunity. I
One,
think PNC agents really need to get in this game from the beginning of asking the question, how is your health plan insured, fully insured or self-funded? They need to know that so that they can help them better manage or mitigate the risks, because a fully insured plan has very little ERISA liability, very little. The great thing about a fully insured plan, as much as they get trashed in the marketplace, is that the insurance carrier is responsible to pay what's in the plan. Period. End of story. The employer has no responsibility. If it's excluded in the plan, it's excluded in the plan. If it's covered, it's covered. The difference with self-funding and where the PNC agents need to be aware of this is that if it's in the plan, the employer is responsible to pay it, irrespective of whether or not they get reimbursed by the stop loss. Big difference. And the ERISA violations escalate. And you want to make sure, by the way, if you sell a fiduciary, but we could talk about this on a future course or lesson. There's fiduciary liability policies out there where you get $5-10 million limit, but they'll sub-limit the ERISA liability down to $250,000. So you got to read these things. Isn't it interesting that carriers want to sub-limit ERISA liability unless you prod them to take that off and buy it back? That they know. They're smart people. They have actuaries. They know what they're seeing, the lawsuits. They know what's going on. ERISA violations are serious, especially with the explosion of fees and the whole issue around, are you paying prudent fees? And boy, is that a hard thing to manage. That is, and once it gets discovered you weren't paying prudent fees, you got to put the money back. Got to put it back. And that's where the real issues start to come into play.
Frank, it was a pleasure having you grace our Academy virtual doors in an author conversation. That's super pleasure on our part. And what's the site? thesilentdanger.com, is it?
Thesilentdanger.com.
Okay.
You can certainly find it there. If somebody has a question, if Patrick, I've quoted you a couple of times. George, I've quoted Patrick when Patrick said, I think it was on a post or something in response, that Frank likes it when people disagree with him. And I do. It's engineers don't learn anything from bridges that stand up. They learn from bridges that fall down. If anybody reads this book, I will put an open invitation out there. If you disagree with anything in it, I will welcome the opportunity to engage. Because that's the other thing about writing a book. It's out there. It's out there. So
the gauntlet
I'm
is thrown
open
to the
any pushback.
Yes, the expert/instructor community at large, and I think Patrick, the Academy would be happy to host that forum.
Oh yes, that would be appointment viewing.
I was going to suggest another panel discussion with James Moore, but maybe we should do a bake-off with him. I don't know, Frank. Now that you're retired, maybe there's other interests that you'd like to compete against other experts in. I don't know.
I've abdicated my responsibilities in that to James Moore. He can carry the water on that.
All right. Fantastic. Patrick,
although just on a different note, George, we may see comp harden up for the first time in 15 years, but that's a different topic. No, I'd love to talk about fiduciary liability with PNC agents and how they must take a greater role in this. There's a big, huge opening out there for them, and nothing motivates employers to change agents more than to discover their entire net worth was at risk, and to discover that they had no knowledge of that and did nothing about it because they weren't given the opportunity to. That's a driver for people to attract new clients better than anything I know.
Frank, I casually asked you about, could we ever see you again as an instructor? And you lobbed 5 topics and classes at us. So love it. Frank, thank you so much. Patrick, thanks for coming to this author conversation. Thanks for showing us the book. And yes, everybody, thesilentdanger.com. That is nothing else except something to do with Frank Pennachio's book. So if you go to thesilentdanger.com, don't go there for any other reason other than to get more information about Frank's book. Frank Pennachio, or Ernest Hemingway Anaccio. I'm not sure. You are looking super great. So
I
everything
wanted to be
agrees.
more like Patrick George. I wanted to be more
That's
like that.
funny. Whatever's happening to you, it agrees with you tremendously. So wonderful
Thank
to
you
see
much.
you. Wonderful to talk to you, Frank. I missed you. I'll say that. I'll just, I didn't know how much, but miss
I
talking
missed
to
you
you.
guys
And
too. Always a pleasure. I always appreciate you folks. You've been extraordinarily kind and supportive and a good friend all these years. And I very much appreciate the opportunity to reengage.
thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Frank.
On
Take
behalf
care.
of Patrick Rate, the director of the Academy of Insurance, and today's guest, author and instructor, Frank Pennachio, this is your host, George, saying thanks everybody for coming to this author conversation, or viewing this author conversation, I should say, and tell your friends about it. Go to Amazon, check out Frank's book. It's amazing. Frank, hopefully it's sooner than later that we see you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward. Be well.
Have a great day, everybody. Take care.